are renting it, whether it's a family vacation or whatever, it should always be investment. So, and bear with me, like I said, I'm not really new. I'm kind of new to Zoom, but I'm more used to interactive. So I guess if you have questions in the chat, I guess we'll get to them later, but if something comes up, please comment, share, whatever. Because I feel like I'm talking to myself a little bit. So anyway, so if I could do a little poll, I think we have a chat just so I can know. I'm going to talk about residential real estate on how to purchase. I'm also going to talk about wholesaling, which is how to get started in investing. And then I'm also going to talk about a little bit of commercial real estate. So I have experience in all three areas. So if I could get a quick poll, I guess in the chat, is there like a thumbs up or something on who all is the current homeowner? Is everyone able to put a thumbs up or something? I don't know. Everyone, okay, thumbs up. I see the thumbs up. Okay, all right. And if you don't feel like sharing, that's fine too. Just so I can kind of get a gauge on how we can pace this session on what I can spend time on. So we have a few people that put a thumbs up, and okay, now I'm seeing them come through. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So yeah, so home ownership is a big part of financial stability and building economic wealth, because everyone has to have a place to stay, right? So you're either paying rent or you're investing. Every single month you make a mortgage payment, you're investing in real estate, right? Because you're paying off that mortgage and your house is appreciating. It's not like a car which depreciates in value. A house gains value, right? So even purchasing a home, you're investing. And the biggest analogy I can equate it to is I have a lot of clients and I help them buy and sell. And you hear people say, oh, well, I don't want to own because if something breaks, I have to fix it. Yes, that's true. But the benefits of owning from a financial standpoint are so much more, because if you rent an apartment for $1,400 a month for 13 years, that's a little over $87,000 in rent you'll pay. And when you leave that apartment, what do you leave with? Just your stuff. You don't take away any equity. Versus if you bought a house and you owned it for 13 years, and I'm just using that as an analogy because I have a client right now. She sold her house and she's about to walk away with $70,000. You know, $70,000 is what she's walking away with. And I don't know about you, but I could use that type of money to start a business or expand my business or purchase a rental property. You can purchase a rental property with $70,000. So that's going to generate more money, more income. So it's really the trade-off. If you have a broken toilet, you know, that's $100 versus giving someone $86,000 for rent. So that's just kind of, I don't want to get on my soapbox too much, but there are definitely benefits to owning real estate. And I'm sure you guys can agree, because otherwise, you know, you wouldn't be on the call. So anyway, let's get to my presentation. And I love the introduction. And thank you again, Audrey and Jasmine, for having me speak. I am trying to pull up some of this, share my screen here. We'll get started into, got a couple of slides. Okay. Okay, it says host disabled attendee screen share. So,
hold on, that's because I gotta make you a co-host real quick.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Jasmine. And we are gonna save the questions to the end, but if anyone wants to pop their question in the chat, feel free. I can at least see what's interests you. So while she's updating that, I do want to talk about the current market. With the pandemic, a lot of people think, you know, we are in a recession, right? But a recession does not equal a housing crisis. And I've had some clients, you know, call me when they seen their interest rates dropping and they're like, oh my God, I can get a foreclosure. I can get this. No, we're not there yet. This is not 2008. Now, that's not to say that next year in 2021, there won't be a lot of distressed sellers that, you know, took a financial hit during this pandemic. But right now in 2020, we are not in a housing crisis. We are just in an economic recession. And a lot of people try to equate those two things together and they are totally separate. But now is a really great time to purchase because interest rates are so low. I mean, super low. And so I've been crazy busy. I think people are tired of being at home and people were in apartments and they were like, you know what, when this coronavirus is over, I got to get out of here. I got to get that house. I got to get a bigger place, or, you know, maybe they wanted to downsize, but it seems like May 1st, my phone just started blowing up and everyone was ready to purchase. So it is still a great time to purchase. The interest rates are super low. All you homeowners, if you haven't refinanced, I would look into refinancing as well too. So am I ready, Jasmine?
Yep, you should be ready to go.
So let's get into it. Let's try this again. Okay. All right, can everyone see the screen? All right, it looks like. Bear with me, it's my first time, so screen sharing.
We can see it.
Okay, awesome. All right, homeownership is possible. So she gave me a great introduction, so I'll kind of save that through, but I've been a realtor for about 15 years. Like I said, I've been around real estate all my life. I've also been in the mortgage industry 20 years, so I kind of did both for a while. Currently, I focus more on real estate than mortgages, but I'm also the Dallas chapter president of NAMBA, which is the National Association of Minority Mortgage Bankers of America. Very long name, NAMBA for short. But I'd like to give them a quick shout out because NAMBA's mission is to help women and minorities with home ownership, with financial literacy. So I'm very passionate about that too. But we really service the professionals that help underprivileged areas and underprivileged minorities get into houses, you know, and we advocate even on the national level for fair housing. We advocate for more financial literacy, for more affordable housing. We advocate for a lot of different things, but our main thing is funding and growing professionally people like me, you know, African American, minority women, because we're the people that are helping our communities, you know, purchase. So like to just give them a quick little shout out. It's a nonprofit, but I'm passionate about helping other agents and other people get into real estate and the mortgage industry too. So I have an extensive mortgage side as well. So I'm kind of a unicorn, but I just like to share that knowledge with people with mortgage planning and helping people get financially prepared. So I think that kind of fits in the mission, right, for Zan Homes, yeah. So we talked about now's a great time to purchase, preparing to buy. One of the big things, because I have a mortgage background, I might talk about mortgages a little more than normal than other realtors. But the biggest thing is getting pre-qualified for a mortgage. Has anyone ever walked into a bank to try to apply for a house? I don't know where the chat went. But if you tried to walk into a bank, I mean, it's very intimidating, you know. And up until about 3 years ago, I kind of didn't think that home buying seminars were even useful. And then I went to my first NAMBA conference, and I realized that there's a big need for education, because walking into a bank to get pre-qualified is very intimidating, especially when, you know, they may not look like you. So the first step is getting pre-qualified. And so and pre-approved. So the difference between pre-qualified and pre-approved is pre-qualified means that someone has maybe looked at your income and your assets and said, hey, based on $60,000 a year and your current debt, this is how much house you can buy. Okay, but it's not a pre-approval. So a pre-approval means that you've actually ran your credit. Someone's looked at your bank statements, looked at your income. They've ran it through what's called an automated underwriting system, and they've said, okay, you are actually approved pending you find a house for this amount. So it's a little bit different. But a pre-approval is more of a solid situation to go start looking for a house. And I always make a joke, my car doesn't start unless you pre-approved. Okay. So during that time of getting pre-qualified, you know, we can look online and virtual, you could drive neighborhoods, but until you actually do a whole mortgage application and someone looks at your credit, looks at your income, and they actually run it through the system and determine if you are qualified. So I like to really point that out, because a lot of times people will just send you out. They'll just pull your credit and say, oh, okay, you have this score, so you're fine. And then you get into shopping for a house and putting money down, and then you're really not qualified. So I always recommend you actually get pre-approved, which means the lender has looked at all of your documents, not just your credit, and they've looked at your whole financial mortgage application and determined exactly how much house you can buy. It makes the home shopping process easier because you can go shop with confidence. You know, you don't have to worry about, oh, okay, let me see if I can get this house. No, we already know for a shadow of a doubt. So yeah, that's the main difference. So you want to focus on actually getting pre-approved. Okay. Let's go to types of mortgages. So there's conventional and FHA. And then there's down payment assistance. There's VA, USDA. I do VA and USDA. Most of my lenders kind of focus on conventional and FHA. Then there's also down payment assistance. I happen to be, like I said, I'm super passionate about real estate and mortgages. I call myself a real estate nerd, but I am a trainer for the State of Texas Affordable Housing Corp, which is called TSHAC. TSHAC is a down payment assistance program. It is free money, people, free money to purchase the house. Roughly, if you make under about $104,000 a year, it is not based on kids. It's not based on area or city. You can use TSHAC all over the entire state of Texas. It is a free grant. Some of the programs are actually a forgivable silent loan, which means it's on your title as a second lien. So if you sell the house within like 3 years, you have to pay it back. But if not, it falls off. So TSHAC, I'm passionate about TSHAC as well. And I like to spread the word about that because it's free money. It's helping you make a good investment.
Okay, Keisha, just to make sure our audience understands, spell it and where do we get the information?
Okay, it's right here on the PowerPoint, but you can go to TSAHC.org. I don't know if my cursor shows up.
See, your PowerPoint is very
Is it small?
Yeah. See, you didn't do full screen.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
new to
That's
this.
okay.
And then I'm
That's why I
losing.
said, just go ahead. We don't
Thank
want you to
you.
mess up.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Mhm.
you're fine. I'm used to interaction, so it's kind of
I
weird
know.
for me to, and tell me if I'm talking fast too, because I'm used to like
No, we good. We good.
feedback. Okay.
So the only
And
thing
what
is
is it again? So I can put it in the
yeah, chat. Mhm.
chat.
Okay. TSAHC.org.
TSCH
TSA.
PSA.
Yeah, HC. Sorry. I might have been saying it wrong. Let me see if I.
No, it's also because my phone is trying to do autocorrect.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so it's
Yeah.
like every time I type it, it wants to correct me.
Okay.
So, all right. So, calling it back, I have TSAHC.com.
Yes. Texas State Affordable Housing Corp. TSHAC is easier. but yeah, let's see.
If you go out of there,
Okay.
exit out of there.
Okay. Exit out of here.
Uh-huh.
Sharing.
Exit out of that. No, not sharing. Just exit out of the screen that you're looking at.
Okay.
All right, and then go to the bottom where it looks like a screen, like a projector.
Right here.
Yeah, that'll make it large for us to see.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. So, like I said, and if I'm talking fast, please let me know. So the Texas State Affordable Housing Corp, it's free money. There are other programs too. I just happen to be a trainer for TSHAC. Look like I got a typo there. But there's down payment assistance, and you get a mortgage. You can apply for a mortgage credit certificate, which gives you a tax break on your income taxes too. So that's about $2,000 a year in tax credits you can also qualify for when you purchase your mortgage. You have to do it at the time that you purchase your mortgage. One other special note about TSHAC is that it's not for first-time buyers. So a lot of programs are specifically for first-time buyers. This program you can use even if you've owned a home currently or you owned a home in the past, you can use this one. So I thought
And
that's
Keisha, can you give them the definition of a first-time buyer? Because many people, don't really understand the full definition.
yeah.
Okay.
So TSHAC, a first-time home buyer would be anyone who has not owned a home in 3 years. So if you owned a home in 2008 and you went through the crisis then, and maybe you had to let the house go or do something different or short sale or something in 2011, and you've been renting since then, now you would be considered a first-time home buyer, and you will qualify for this program. But this program is not specifically for first-time home buyers. So if you currently have a house and you want to sell that and buy another house and you qualify, you can use TSHAC. Okay. The other nice feature about TSHAC is for medical professionals. If you're in the medical industry, fire, police, and teachers, you get a discount on the interest rate and the loan fees as well under TSHAC. So I don't know why this little typo came through, but anyway, and I'll have this information to share if anyone wants it afterwards. So it's up to 5% in down payment assistance. So that means if you do an FHA loan, which FHA loan typically has a 3.5% down payment. So if you do an FHA loan, TSHAC could cover your entire down payment. If you got 5% in assistance, it will cover your entire down payment. Okay. So let's get to credit score versus credit report. So credit score is one of the biggest things that impacts the home buying process. But you have to understand your credit score and your credit report. So does anyone know what is the number one item or issue that holds people back from purchasing a home? I don't know how can I see the chat? Let's see. Can I see the chat? Does anyone?
The chat is down at the bottom.
Okay.
Right hand side under more.
Okay. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, mine's at the top. I'm on a Mac, so.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see.
So you have answers like back
Okay,
medical,
I see it now.
late payments, debt ratio, late payments, bad credit.
Right.
Do you see the student loan?
Yeah. I see.
Okay.
I see them now coming through.
Gotcha.
Really good. Y'all are awake. I'm not putting anyone to sleep. So I think it's Raylene. She's on her iPad.
Yes.
She's student loans. Student loans is the number one thing that holds people back from purchasing, especially African Americans. The studies have shown African Americans, minorities, and millennials, student loan debt, because we all know that it does not go away. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about real quick, and this is where my mortgage knowledge and real estate kind of mesh together and have some advantages for my clients, because so what happens is the student loan, depending on what type of loan you get, that's why I talked about the loans, whether you get FHA or conventional. Conventional, you have to have a little bit better credit, and most of the time you need to put down 20%. FHA, they're more lax on credit, and you only have to put down 3.5%. So if you do the math, you get down payment assistance on FHA, that's going to cover your down payment, so then you can get into a house for very little money. So the thing about that is the student loans. So on FHA has a rule to where you have to use either 1% of your student loan into your debt ratio or the fully amortized payment. So I guess I should have put a slide in here, but so say, for example, you have $100,000 in student loan debt. So what FHA is going to do is they're going to use $1,000 a month to calculate into your debt to income ratio. That's crazy. So that's adding like $1,000 payment. So that's how some people are disqualified, because right then, you know, if you're not making a lot of money, they're going to add in $1,000 a month. They're estimating that you have to pay for the student loan, and then you're not able to purchase a house. So one of the things that I work with clients, my team works with clients, is on how to do a student loan consolidation. And when you consolidate those student loans, one, you get a lower interest rate on the student loans, and then you're able to amortize the payment over 20 years. So I'll just use myself as an example. I had about $60,000 in student loans, and the payment was, you know, $800 on the credit report. Well, when I consolidated all those student loans down to one loan, I got a lower interest rate, and instead of $800, I amortized it over 20 years, which means the payment is based on 20-year payment, and that took it down from $800 a month to $400, to like $399. So that makes a huge difference in how much house you can qualify for, or if you can qualify at all for a mortgage. So that's one of the things that our team and the lenders that I work with, we work with people that way. The other thing about student loans is that a lot of times you defer forbearance, and then you originally took out $60,000, right? But you put it in forbearance, you deferred it. Well, the interest keeps accumulating. So the original balance on your student loan was $60,000. But after all the interest in the years of putting the payment off, now it's 80 or 90 or 100,000 because of the interest. So that's also a reason that brings down your credit score, because the way that the credit bureaus read those is if you had a credit card limit over the limit. When it says 60,000 original student loan balance, and then the current balance is 90,000 because of the interest, that drags your score down. So that's why this slide is important when it says understanding your credit score and what's on your credit report. And a lot of people don't know that that's one of the benefits of doing that consolidation, because then it resets that student loan to where the balance is not higher than the current balance is not higher than the original balance. And so the mortgage approval is based on your score and your report. So does anyone know, does anyone know what score you need to get approved for a mortgage? And Athena, I seen your question. 650, 700, good job. 620, 650. Okay.
And also, just to let you know, while you're looking at that, I'm in the chat. I am writing them down, those questions, so that way, if you want to, we can revisit them at the end of the presentation. If you like.
Good. All right. So all of those answers for the score are correct. Pre-corona COVID, I try to call it the politically correct name. Before the pandemic, you really needed a 580 on FHA. You needed a 580 score in order to, that was the minimum score required. Now, what's happened is a couple of things. One is you need the 580. However, even if you have the score, it still depends on what's on your report. So you could have a 700, but you may have a $20,000 charge off that happened 3 months ago, and the underwriting system is not going to approve that. They're going to require that you pay that off, or they're going to say refer or whatever else. So sometimes the score is part of it, but it's more about what's actually on your report. And your debt to income. Like I've had clients that had a low score and not had one missed payment, and they didn't have any missed payments, but their score was low because they had a high debt to income ratio. So we have a group of like I said, I don't want to go too deep into the financial side, but I do have a team of lenders that help you consolidate those student loans, and where we can do what's called a credit analysis that will tell us exactly what's holding your score back. Okay. The main difference between a FHA and a conventional loan is that FHA is a government backed loan. It's a government insured loan, right? So you have, the government is basically insuring that loan, and you pay, there's certain premiums that you pay, like mortgage insurance premium that you're paying in to get an FHA loan. And that money goes to the government in case you default. The government pays the bank back. A conventional loan, you can think of that as like your Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Those loans are ran by an agency, and they basically bundle those loans up and they sell it to the secondary market. So you can kind of think about like FHA is like government backed, government insured loan. conventional is like a private bank type of loan that you can think of is bundled up and sold in groups to like stock market and investors and hedge funds. So that's kind of the main difference. So FHA is going to be more regulated, but because it's a federal program, the credit requirements are kind of universal to say, to give everyone a chance at fair housing. I hope that answers the question, but we can go more into that a little later. So all of these answers are correct: 620, 650, 680. The difference is right now with the pandemic, a lot of mortgage companies tighten their guidelines. So whereas you needed a 580, that went away. Now they're like, hey, you need a 620. We want someone a little bit more stable. And then to get down payment assistance, a lot of the lenders are saying 640. Where in the past, they would say 620. So a lot of lenders are saying, hey, if you want to use down payment assistance, you need to have a little bit more skin in the game. You need to have some more savings and a higher score. So, which is kind of a pain in the neck if you're like, you know, a little under 700 and you're trying to use down payment assistance and the lender is requiring you to be over 700. So it's a pain in the neck, but at the same time, these changes kind of help stabilize our economy and stabilize our market, right? So if people are buying the house that they can afford and not just, you know, not cutting it close or whatever, you know, they're solid, making good financial decision, it keeps the whole economy solid as a whole. And when you purchase your house, you're investing, right? We already talked about that. And so you don't want your neighbors, everyone around you, to go into foreclosure. Because if your whole neighborhood starts going into foreclosure, then what is that going to do? It's going to drop your property value. If everyone around you in your neighborhood is selling their house or they're losing their house and it gets vandalized or sold off cheap, now your property value has lowered. So sometimes these guidelines are a pain because now I get frustrated too, but they keep the housing market solid and they keep the real estate, you know, market, they keep it flowing versus, you know, in 2007 and 8, you know, some of those loans were just really putting people in a bad situation. A lot of people didn't understand when you got an ARM loan, an adjustable rate mortgage, that you had a low payment to start with, and then 2 years into it, your payment might jump $400. So now those have kind of went away, and most of the loans that they make, especially FHA, are going to be a 30-year fixed. So you can count on your mortgage not changing. Okay, so just understand the difference. Like I said, this is kind of a quick overview. I don't want to get too detailed, but we look at the lenders that I work with and my team, we look at more than just your score. We look at your credit report. We help you with the student loans. We can help you consolidate them. We walk you through the process. When you say help, we walk you through the process on the options and then help you clear up anything on your credit. Okay, I work with a very good financial service company that does credit repair, credit building, and things like that too. Okay, so and the credit report, the credit score it's essential even for investing, even for commercial properties. If you're trying to open a business, all of those things kind of play together. So let's see. Y'all can see my whole screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next step in the home buying process is once you got your credit together, you got your down payment, and we got your pre-approval, not pre-qualified, but we actually pre-approved, we would start looking for a house. And then once we find a house, we would do a home inspection. And I just did a quick chart to what a home inspection covers. A lot of people skip this step. And this amazes me in 2020. It amazes me that realtors are letting their clients skip this step, and that people are purchasing a house skipping this step. But the home inspection, I think, is one of your biggest investments, right? You're about to spend $200,000, $300,000. You should spend the $400,000, invest the $400,000 into getting a home inspection that covers, you know, the condition of the property. A lot of things that come up on the home inspection are minor, but the main things you can actually get fixed before you purchase the house. So when I hear people say, oh, I want to rent instead of own because renting, you don't have to fix nothing. Well, that's just kind of a, you know, it's a little uneducated, because you're going to make a good investment. And part of making a good investment is knowing all the details on what you're purchasing and what you're investing in. And that's part of the home inspection, where you're looking at the roof, the attic, the insulation, the plumbing, the appliances, the heating and cooling, foundation, the walls. You're looking at the soil. You're looking at, you know, lots of different things on the home inspection. So that is a crucial part of making your good investment, right? You wouldn't buy a car that you didn't get to test drive, that you didn't get to inspect. And that's what the home inspection does. So after the home inspection, and I'm kind of, like I said, I'm kind of going through this a little quickly because I want to get to more of investing in commercial. But after the home inspection, you go through the appraisal process and you go to closing. So the minimum down payment to get started, like I said, I talk about down payment assistance. If you hear someone say you can get in a house with no money, I would run. There's just no such thing. Even if you get 100% VA financing, you still need money, right? If you get 5% down payment assistance and the seller pays your closing costs, you still have out-of-pocket expenses. And my rule of thumb is if you don't have this amount of money to get started, then it's probably just not the right time, because you don't want to go into a house being house poor, you know, where you're like barely moving in, right? So the minimum to get started would be, you know, credit repair. We talked about that. Earnest money deposit. That's typically 1% of the purchase price. So if you're buying a $200,000 house, you need to at least put $2,000 in what's called earnest money, which is your good faith deposit, that you're going to purchase the home, that you're going to close on it, and everything like that. So typically 1% is kind of an average. It could be any amount. If it's too low, the seller is probably not going to consider taking your offer. And then you have an option fee. Option fee could be any amount as well. And the option fee in Texas, we do what's called an option fee. It is the amount that you put on the contract, and that is the amount you're giving the seller to take their house off the market so you can do your home inspection and all of that. So it's normally a small amount, $100, $200. And then if you change your mind about the house for any reason during the option period, you have the option to cancel. The seller would keep that $100, and then you get your deposit back, which would be the $2,000 deposit. So you have to have those funds available. The home inspection, $400. A pest inspection to see if you have termites on the house, $75. An appraisal fee, $500. And then a home buying educational class, which, like I said, I help a lot of people with down payment assistance. That's a requirement, is that you take an online class about down payment assistance and buying a house. It's a requirement. So that's one of the things you have to do at the closing process is normally like $100 or so online. So even if you get 100% of your down payment paid, the seller pays all your closing costs at closing, you still would have to have all the money listed here, which is not bad to make a good investment. It means, you know, the down payment, the option fee, home inspection, pest inspection, appraisal, and then your home buying class. Are there any questions about that? Yes, I do actually, Tommy. I do recommend a home inspection for a new build. Depending on the builder, there are some builders now that do an independent inspection on their own new build. But I think there's like 2 of them do that, and there's a ton of builders. So I definitely would recommend. I have had plenty of clients do a new home inspection because, believe it or not, sometimes they're not built to code. Sometimes they leave stuff out, even on new construction. And then, is there a fee for credit repair? Yes. I don't want to get too much into that. I think they have someone talking about credit repair. So I kind of want to stay a little away from that, Raylene. But I do have more so, I'm getting away from the name credit repair because I work with total financial experts that are knowledgeable and educated in all of your finances. So not someone who's just going to be like, okay, I'm gonna get you 700, but then you've got all these judgments and stuff still on your credit. So it's like a total package. So, but we have a credit builder and a credit financial advisor that I do work with. And there is a fee. Yes, there is. It really just depends on your situation. Some of the lenders that I work with are able to, well, actually one of the lenders specifically that I work with are able to run a credit analysis that I was talking about earlier. And with that credit analysis, you can pretty much, depending on how close you are, the lender can actually help you with the credit. If you're like maybe 15 points off, the lender has tools that they use to help you with that. But if you're like 100, 200 points off, then yeah, I would send you to the credit restoration and financial counselor. So, but those are good questions, really good questions. And I look at any type of credit restoration, credit repair. Like I said, I'm kind of getting away from the name credit repair, but I look at that as an investment because it's going to save you money. So let's get into wholesaling. Does anyone know what real estate wholesaling is? Yes, Miss Francis. I'm sure you know Miss Francis because of Miss Pam, right? So, of course, I'm sure you guys are like, she does everything. Not only am I a realtor and mortgage professional, I'm also an investor. I purchased several rental properties over the years, and I've learned a lot the hard way. And that's why I just try to share with people most of the time so they can just learn by my mistakes and you don't have to repeat those. But one thing that I'm passionate about is wholesaling. Real estate wholesaling, it's a trendy name lately. Everyone's a wholesaler, but really wholesaling has been around forever, right? Wholesaling is a great introduction into investing, and it's a great way to start in the real estate market. Even if you haven't purchased a house, I kind of recommend you purchase your first house, you know, to live in, but you don't have to. You can do it either way. Close, Mr. Watson. Wholesaling is more of a middleman, right? Wholesaling is connecting someone who needs to sell with someone who needs to buy. Whereas a realtor, I represent someone a wholesaler does not represent someone needing to sell or someone needing to buy. But wholesaling has been it's part of the real estate cycle, right? I personally wholesale properties. Now I don't wholesale all types of properties, but you can wholesale anything. You can wholesale $1 million house. You can wholesale commercial property. You can wholesale a house that doesn't need repairs. But it gets a bad name sometimes because people think, oh, you're taking their equity, you're stealing their equity. Not necessarily, right? The part of wholesaling that I focus on is wholesaling in neighborhoods, abandoned properties. Like, I don't even touch a property where someone's living in it. Most of the houses that I work with are abandoned, they're boarded up, there's homeless people living in them, they've been vandalized. I've walked into some tough situations, okay? But wholesaling, it keeps our market, but it's also, if we wholesale all of the terrible distressed properties in our neighborhoods and communities, that increases the value around them, right? So it's like people get this idea that you're taking something, which I'm not gonna get on that, but really I'm giving back, right? All of the properties that my team and I have wholesaled, those houses would have been lost to foreclosure, to tax sale, or just to vandalism. Like, some of them have just been vandalized, and then now there's like a new piece of the market where people are actually stealing houses. They're recording fake deeds for houses that have been sitting vacant, and they're going and recording them, and they're basically squatting in them. They're stealing them from families. So, you know, what we do with my investment side is we've primarily focused on abandoned, boarded up, distressed properties, and we focus on connecting them with an investor who is going to turn around and rehabilitate the property for someone to live and create affordable housing. So wholesaling, there's a big need for wholesaling in our market, especially here in Dallas, because there's no builders building affordable housing. There's a very small amount of builders building houses under 200,000. Very, very small amount. So just think of it as it fuels the real estate market. It keeps it going. It's been around forever. Like, it just got a fancy name and more recognition, and there's 1,000 YouTube videos. But if you would like more information, I think you're going to have my contact information. I do host some classes on how to wholesale and how to get started. Besides the class, you can get started in wholesaling for like maybe $100 to $200.
Okay. Keisha, that's what I want you to tell the audience.
Okay.
How can it get started? And give us an example of something that you wholesale. You know, it doesn't have to be long. Just walk us through that.
Okay. So I had a client which she owned a regular house, and then she owned a her brother. I give it a good example. So her brother went to prison. He went to prison, and before he went to prison, her brother had bought a little small frame house in West Dallas. He bought a frame house in West Dallas, and there was a big, huge, old oak tree in front of this little frame house. And one day a storm came through, and the oak tree fell on the house and like almost flattened the house, right? Because it was just a small little frame house in West Dallas. And so then they rebuilt the house, brand new, rebuilt this house from the ground up after they moved the tree. And then he went to prison. And so he went to prison, and so his sister, which was my client, he transferred to her name, or it was in her name, so however it got to her name, but it was in her name. But there was her brother's house, and he went to prison. And then I think the brother's girlfriend, like, she tried to live in the house for a little bit and she didn't. So the family just ended up boarding up the house so people wouldn't break in. So I think someone had broken in, but the house was 90% finished, right? 90% finished. From when the tree fell on it, he had rebuilt it, and then he was like, he only had 10% to go, right? Before he went to prison, and then they boarded up the house. So it was like a brand new house that was 90% finished, had the floors in, he was like grouting the tile, had the toilets in, they were all brand new, and whatever happened in his situation. So the family had it for 10 years. It was about 10 years they had this house, and they were paying the taxes on it, but it was just sitting there. It was just sitting there, and the brother had been there. So they had been paying taxes, but they had got behind, but they were, tired of the upkeep. So that was an example. And she's like, well, can you do anything with it? Well, they didn't have the money to finish the 10% that it needed. They didn't have the money for that. And so she was like, do you have an investor that could come in and finish this house and clean it out and everything? And I said, yes. So I wholesaled that property. So I connected someone who needed to sell with an investor who was looking to buy. And, it relieved that family, and that money that they got a very nice sum of money, made a difference, I think, in the brother's legal fees and for his kids and things like that. So I knew that person. So that's kind of like not the example of like what I teach in my class, but it wasn't a boarded up house. So you could have been driving by and seen this house boarded up, and then went back and researched to find the owner and figure out the situation. But that money went to help, like it was a big help to this people. And I forgot to leave out the part that the house was paid off. They just owed the taxes. So, and the brother, who was in jail, there was nothing he could do at the time. So that's an example of wholesaling. Like it's not, sometimes it gets a bad rap or people don't understand. It's similar to what a realtor does when someone needs to sell their house. The only difference is that the condition of the property, right? So this house was halfway completed or 90% completed. Like people are not, to live in it, people are not going to, most average person is not going to buy a house like that 90% completed, where they have to go get electrical permits because it wasn't a certificate of occupancy. So you had to go fix the electrical so the city would turn on the electricity. Like those are kind of like extreme things that the average homeowner purchasing a house are not willing to do. So that's when an investor comes in and purchases that house, finishes it out. And actually, since the house has sat for 10 years, it was dated. Like, styles change. So actually some of the stuff was brand new, but the investor ended up changing out the cabinets and some of the flooring to what's current in today's style. So I hope that's a good example to put in your mind about wholesaling. That was a house that was, after it was fixed up, was probably like maybe $170,000, $170,000, and it was brand new. Everything was new inside the house. And that created affordable housing for someone. Okay. So, but this chart is just what I want you to envision of where a wholesaler fits in the market. So to get started with wholesaling, like I said, besides my class, you really only need like a tank of gas to drive around and look for houses. There's several ways to start wholesaling. Some people like to use what's called bandit signs, which are just like those signs you see on the side of the road that say, hey, I buy houses cash. Some people like to use that. Some people like to do mailers. They mail letters to these houses and addresses. Some people like to knock on the door, which, you know, I focus on houses that are abandoned, so knocking on the door is not effective. But wholesaling is, you know, driving for dollars, I think, is the easiest way to get started in wholesaling, because you're literally just driving around neighborhoods, and you may get out and talk to the neighbor. Like, I've done that before. Sometimes I don't get out the car. I actually just roll down the window. Somebody's outside and be like, hey, what's going on with this house? You know, does someone live there? You know, sometimes the neighbors tell you stories, but that's the best way, in my opinion, to get started with little to no money. Just driving around looking for houses that are looked abandoned, seeing if the mail is overflowing out the mailbox or the weeds are tall, seeing if another way you can look on the side of the house and see if the electrical meter is ripped off. If there's no electrical meter, it's probably, you know, no electricity going on in there. And then you go back, you write down that address, and you go back and you research it and you look it up and you track down the owner or the heirs. Like I said, in some situations, the owner might be passed away, or it might be lives in another state, or like my client, the brother was in prison. And so the sister was handling everything. So you kind of track down the family or the owner or the next of kin and kind of figure out the situation. And then kind of this will answer your question. The main difference in wholesaling and flipping a house, that's a good question. So kind of two parts to that. So with wholesaling, you are not actually representing anyone. In order to represent someone, a buyer or a seller, you have to have a real estate license. What a wholesaler is connecting two people together, but a wholesaler represents themselves and they are selling a contract. So you're not selling a house, you are selling a contract. So what happens is once you track down the owner or the responsible person for the property, you would then put a contract together for a price. And then you find an investor, like on the chart, an investor who wants to buy, and the investor purchases the contract from you. So it's a piece of paper. So that's, Raylene, the biggest difference is a house flipper is actually buying the house. And then they buy it, fix it up, and then sell it to a homeowner. Okay, or someone who they sell it. Now, sometimes, like once you get into advanced wholesaling, you do actually purchase the property and then you sell it, but you don't fix it up. So you're still wholesaling. You're selling it at a wholesale condition, a wholesale price. But that's kind of advanced. Once you're starting out, you're just selling a contract. That's where your research comes in. I think is it Felicia? You would research it, skip trace. There's software out there. There's lots of systems. We use, you look it up in the county records. You have to do a little bit of research too. And you find out the liens and everything. Like, you do all of your research. Yeah, that's why it's work. It's not, a lot of these YouTube videos, they make it seem so easy, but every house you find may not be a deal because it may have lots of liens. Like with the city of Dallas, like I've seen some really nice houses that I wanted to get, but the taxes were worth, the taxes balance due was worth more than what the house was. And so what happens is the city of Dallas does not discount taxes. They do not. So the only time they discount taxes is if it goes to tax foreclosure sale. That's the only time you get a discount on taxes. And other than that, if they owe $68,000 in taxes to the city of Dallas wants $68,000. Yeah, no discounts. So Okay, we'll get into that question. I think it's Yelena. I'll get into that on wholesaling at the end on income and generated. But so about buying the house at the county auction. So let's talk about that real quick. I don't recommend buying houses at the county auction for a couple of reasons. The main reason is that when you purchase a property, how am I on time, Miss Jasmine and Audrey? I got like 20 minutes.
About 20 minutes.
Okay, good. So I'm almost finished then. So when you purchase a property at the county auction, you have to be really careful. And I had one like this last year where the seller purchased a lot. In Texas, we have a homestead law. So the homestead law says that, you know, it protects your property from being taken. And so you have a right of redemption. And when the county sells it for taxes or any kind of foreclosure from the county or the city, you have like either 6 months, 180 days, or 2 years on the redemption of the property. And so you have to be really careful because you have to hold that property, like you have to hold that property basically for that amount of time of the redemption. And then even some title companies, which a title company is the person who facilitates the transfer of real estate. The title companies, some of them don't even like to do, they don't insure the title. So they don't insure your ownership on houses and properties bought at the tax auction. Now, I don't know if you may be talking about just foreclosure. Foreclosure is different. It doesn't have that redemption, but the tax auction has a redemption period. So you have to just be really careful because you may go buy a property at the tax auction and you have to hold on to it for a year or 2 years. Okay, so I think that was, yeah, okay. So one more thing about wholesaling, like I said, I do host the class. If you're interested in getting to wholesaling, it's a 2-day class, so it's like much more than I can ever talk about in a Zoom. But I do hold a class and I mentor new investors into, if you're wholesaling or even if you want to purchase real estate and flip houses, I mentor you on that too. So I do have a program, so you can reach out to me if you're more interested in that. We had a class scheduled for April, and then the coronavirus, of course, changed that. So it's still kind of up in the air because we don't know what's going on, but I might be moving it to a Zoom platform. I've looked into that because it just doesn't seem like the virus is going away and our new normal is going to be different. But definitely reach out to me. I have a couple of students that took my class that I'm mentoring that got their first deal and they're about to get, make some money investing. But it's definitely one of those things where it doesn't take a lot of money to get started, but it does take work. And so that's what I want to clarify. It is not a get rich quick, easy scheme. Like I have a very detailed course that goes through step by step, and you have to do the work. Like I don't do it for you. Like I think there was questions in here that talked about, well, how do you find the tax liens? How do you find that? I teach you how to go look those up, but I don't actually do them for you. Like that's the work involved. So you might have 50 boarded up houses you went and drove around and found, and then you go back and you research those 50 and you might find half of them, okay, they owe too many property taxes. Then the other half, maybe too many liens on them. And then you may dwindle that list down to like 4. And then out of that 4, maybe the owners or the family or whoever is managing the property does not want to sell. So it's tedious, but the payoff is good. So on an average, I think there was a question earlier, on an average wholesale deal, I like to tell people anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. Of course, you can make more, but I like to give like a good realistic number of $10,000 is what I think. 5 to 10,000. Anything under $5,000, I'm not even going to tell you to mess with, because the numbers are too tight. If a city lien pops up for $1,700 and you only have $5,000 built into the deal, that's super tight, you know. But to get started, you know, if you do, the first deal I ever did, I think I made $8,000 on it. So yeah, it's not, I see some, it happens where you can make 100,000 on a deal, but that's not the norm. The norm is probably anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. Okay. I don't have a class scheduled right now. We had one scheduled, but like I said, because of the virus, you know, there was no public gatherings, you know. So right now I don't, but if you want to, I'll go to the next step. If you want to reach me, here's my contact information. I'll also add it to the chat. This is my email and my cell number. So you can text me, make sure you tell me who you are and what you're looking for. You can email me and I will definitely put you on the interested list, or we can do another Zoom or conference call and we could talk about what you want to do. If you're ready to get started in the home buying process, you can use that too, wherever you want to get started at. But as of right now, I just don't have a class schedule. I wish I did. I wish that I did. And I'm seriously considering the Zoom. So maybe this will push me into doing a Zoom and taking our curriculum to the Zoom, because during our wholesale class, we do have a classroom set up, but then part of the class is actually going out to the distressed properties and walking the property. And it's really awesome for people, you know, sometimes people have never been into a house before it's been renovated. So
Keisha, let me ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how many wholesaling deals do you target within a year? Or tell us that process. Do you sit down and do you say every quarter, I want to do at least?
I need to. I'm not that disciplined.
Okay,
So right now I'm kind of mentoring. So I have 3 students that I'm mentoring. So I kind of help them with their deals. But because I am kind of a junkie, like even, I think it was like 2 days ago, I was showing a house to a client that was just, you know, a regular client. And I seen a property, so I just can't help but write the address down. Okay. So I seen 2 houses. Yeah, that was 2 days ago. So I just write it down. So for me, I don't, because I do both, and you know, you see I do lots of different things. I don't do wholesaling full time, but one of my business partners does, and I would say on an average, like 7 or 8 houses a year, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
I probably do 1 a quarter though. Like, yeah, I'm well versed in it, but it's not my main focus.
Source of income.
Yeah,
right.
It's not my main source of income. And like right now, I'm like, you know, summertime is busy for people moving and buying, and the rates are so low. So I'm just crazy busy with people trying to purchase. Gotcha. People trying to purchase, people trying to move up. But if I do see an address, I'm writing it down. And so, and then there's times too where I just, you know, sometimes I get kind of stressed. So I might just drive around neighborhoods, and that's kind of like my, I don't know, relaxing time. I drive around neighborhoods and I write down addresses. But if someone wants to just get started, like, just reach out to me, and I have a couple of ideas and I can kind of get them going. But on an average, I think you could do one a month. I definitely do think you could do one a month, easy, if you're committed. I think if you get up and drive 30 minutes a day, like I would say in the morning time, because it gets hot in the day, in the evening, but you get up before you go to work, or if you work in the evening, I don't know what person's work schedule, but just say you did 30 minutes, you drove around the neighborhood before you went to work, and you just wrote those addresses down. If you did that 4 days a week, you're going to build a really good pipeline. And so one thing about real estate and wholesaling is it's not immediate. It's rare that it's like super immediate. It's more like you're building a business. So like with wholesaling, like I was giving an example earlier, you might have 50 addresses, and that eliminates down to 4. You call those 4 people and only one of them is interested. Well, that one that's interested, it still might take that person 60 days to get everything together. But then those 3 other people that said, not right now, or I don't know, or I got to talk to, my aunt, my cousin, my whoever, they come back to you. They do. You treat them fairly, you treat them nice, you work it as a business, they will come back to you. And, Christmas time, they'll be like, hey, are you still interested in buying the house? So it's just important to like keep you a pipeline, keep you a spreadsheet, and keep your notes on who you talked to, what the conversation was. And I kind of, like I said, I go through all of that in our class, because we show you how to set up what's called a CRM, which is a customer relationship management, which is just a database where you can keep all your phone numbers and addresses for all the people you talk to. And then you can keep that straight. So we show you how to set one up for free. We show you how to set up your business. Besides gas and, a little bit of work, we show you how to set up an LLC if you want to do that, and set it up as an entity or a corporation, which is about $300 at the state of Texas. So we show you how to do that as well, to kind of help you get set up as a business and work it as a business. Okay.
All right, Keisha. So we do have, so the time is 2:21. So we have about roughly 10 minutes.
Okay.
So we do have a few questions here, maybe about 5. So you may not be able to quite elaborate on them, but I do want to, maybe you can at least touch on them. So the first was, how do I know if I'm ready to refinance?
Oh, good question. Well, one is, how long have you been in the property? So you have to look at, if you just got in the property, that means that you just paid closing costs, right? So if you're refinancing and you are going to, say you're going to save $800 a month, or no, that's probably extreme. Let's say $400 a month, right? But it costs money to even refinance. Like they roll it into the loan, but you still pay closing costs. So if it costs, we'll say 500. I'm trying to do math in my head. So if you save $500 a month to refinance, but then it costs $6,000 in closing costs, right? So it's going to take you what is that? 6 years? Yeah, 6 years to recoup the savings of the refinance. So that's what you really want to look at, is not, okay, oh, I can save. So if you just purchased a house a year ago, you paid closing costs. You may have paid $5,000, $6,000 in closing costs. And then you refinance, you're going to pay another $5,000 or $6,000. So you have to make sure that you understand, okay, if I refinance and I'm saving $500, but I'm paying $6,000 to refinance, you take 6,000 divided by 5, or divided by 12, that's 5 years. That makes sense. So you really don't start saving until till 5 years into that refinance. So you just want to make sure if you're going to refinance, you're going to keep that loan more than 5 years. You got to outweigh the cost to refinance and your interest rate.
All right, another question is, what financial institutions would you recommend for the student loan consolidations?
Send me an email on that. It's through studentloans.gov, and you can actually go onto the website, and I can send you the link. You could go onto the website and you can see if your student loans qualify. You can do like a pre-qual, like they'll pull it up, your social, you create an account, and you could see if your student loans qualify. But yeah, studentloan.gov is the institution that I recommend. And then they have 4 different loan servicers. I can't think of them all, but you get to pick whoever you want to service your loan.
All right, and whoever asked that question, I guess if you want more details on that, email me. I will put my email, or they have your email, so they can email that question, I guess, directly to you.
Yeah, but it's not something a lot of people are talk about a lot, but it helps your credit tremendously, and it helps your payment tremendously too. But the reason they don't talk about it is because banks don't make any money off of it. So, you know, it's not a product they actually make money on. But it's, if you have government student loans that are subsidized by the government, unsubsidized and subsidized student loans, then most of the time they qualify. Now, private student loans, I'm not sure on those, but I'll definitely help you work through it. But yeah, that's the way to go. It's not really institution. It's more of going through the studentloans.gov, creating an account, and then applying for the consolidation. And it takes about 30 days, and it's not based on your credit. So you don't have to have credit or income to even do it. Now, the one thing you do have to is your student loans cannot be in default. But if they are in default, I do have a person that helps with that too. So just send me an email and we can get that started.
All right, another question was, and I think you kind of touched on this, but what's the difference between FHA and a traditional loan?
Yeah, we did talk about that. So FHA is government insured. And I want to make sure you understand that FHA is government insured and you're paying the insurance on it. A lot of people don't understand that you're actually paying the insurance. But the FHA, the Federal Housing Agency, is insuring the bank. So the insurance is to the bank that they will get their money back if you default. Now, conventional is, think of that as the stock market. Those are like a private bank through Freddie Mac agency. So they do have a set of guidelines, but conventional are more of private equity. They just bundle them up and kind of sell them on the secondary market, which is tied to the stock market.
And you kind of touched on this one as well. What are the qualifications for the TSHAC, if I said this correctly?
Okay, so TSHAC is you still have to qualify for the credit. So TSHAC is the program funnels through a lender. So lender has to be approved for the TSHAC program, and the funds go through the lender to closing. And so you still have to qualify like you would on a regular mortgage. So whether you do FHA or conventional, whatever the lender's guidelines to qualify for the mortgage, you have to qualify for that. And then TSHAC has guidelines that just say you can't make over about $104,000 if you buy in a targeted area, which are areas that, you know, the government is trying to focus on and rebuild. I think you can go up on the income. So like, you know, if it's like a distressed area, they probably allow you because they're trying to rebuild those areas. But generally, you can purchase anywhere in the state of Texas. There are some small exceptions. I think the city of DeSoto, for some reason, does not participate in TSHAC, and the city of McKinney. Don't ask me why. I don't know why those two. But they think they have their own programs. But generally, you can purchase a house anywhere. It doesn't matter. And you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. but you can only own one property. So it can't be like an investment property or anything like that.
Okay. And then also, where it says this, then I guess it's just a yes or no question, and then I guess they'll reach out to you, depending on the answer. But someone wants to know, do you work with multi-units like duplexes and things like that?
Yes, I do. I do duplexes, and I also do commercial as well. So I do help people with commercial, which that's probably like a whole another Zoom. But everything we talked about kind of helps on commercial as far as your debt ratio, your student loans, because most likely on your first commercial property, you're going to have to do a personal guarantee, which means you're going to have to qualify with your personal and business credit on a commercial property. So, so yes, I do.
So anyone that's interested in commercial properties, you can reach out to her as well, and then you all can speak, talk specifics. And then another question was, what are the, and this is kind of a multi-layered question, but it's what's the trend when it comes to, so we have a contractor in the group, and they're asking, what is the trend for home renovations that you're currently noticing? As well as, are you noticing that a lot of people are combining generations inside of a home?
Yes,
to help save money.
Yes, actually, multi-generational living is really coming back. Like, I want to get into some building, and that was one of my goals, is trying to figure out, how to build a affordable multi-generational house. There is a builder that is building that, Lennar. But I say, if you can renovate a house to be a multi-generational setup, that is amazing, amazing. Because even if they don't have multi-generational now, they can Airbnb it and then have it later. Like, I'm, going to have a parent that is probably going to be staying with me, and that's why I'm looking at, how to do that myself. The trend in home renovations, I think, really is just, man, that's a loaded question. I could talk forever on that. I think it's more about, grays are in, which people are tired of gray, I guess some people are. But I think it's more just about a clean look. I'm very particular about drywall. I hate clumpy drywall with layers of paint. Drywall is $20 a sheet. And I don't understand why these investors just don't replace some of the drywall. And then baseboards, which those two things, believe it or not, you could put anything in. It's just a clean baseboard could make anything look wonderful. Green carpet would look, nice with a clean, white, crisp baseboard. But the trends I'm seeing are quartz, granite, a lot of industrial touches. A vintage is coming back. Believe it or not, a lot of people are tired of the track houses. So they actually go to, and I love the older neighborhoods too. I love it for the trees. I love trees and grass. And a lot of people would go for older houses because they have character. A lot of the track houses are like, I hate to say it. I mean, they're just kind of boring, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but people are looking for originality a little bit, because even up in the northern Collin County area, they're building these houses, but they look like townhomes or condos because they're just straight up, every house looks the same. So I think anything that makes it look original and unique is what's trending. And then just a really clean aesthetics. Like, I think you could keep a Brady Bunch kitchen if it's not crusty, if it's clean, if it's the baseboards are nice. That's just my personal opinion. So.
All right, and then last two, these are very quick questions because we are a little over time here.
Okay, sorry.
And so these also, the questions are cut off at this point, but you do have her email inside the chat, so please feel free to use that and reach out to her personally. But we have the question of, How much are your wholesale classes for those that are interested?
That's kind of a loaded question because normally the wholesale class was $500. However, since we're going to be moving probably to a different platform, because that 500 was like 2 days and it included like a kit and lunch and breakfast and lunch and then a tour of a property. So I imagine that if we move it to like a Zoom platform, we probably would lower the price. But you can definitely save between $300 to $500.
All right. And then the last question.
And then she said it wasn't, okay, not the trends, but just aging in place. Like, okay, just, are you talking about, this is a good question. I'm trying to understand just the age of the people going into assisted living. Okay. Yeah. That is a trend. I don't really work that area too much. But that's definitely a market as a contractor. If you're planning to build, even if you built like the granny pods or the granny pads in the back of the houses, that could be a really good concept. So yeah, that's a good question. We should do a deep dive on that maybe.
All right, and then last one was, when you refinance, do you lose that home equity? Do you lose your home equity?
No, you don't lose home equity except for that closing cost that I was talking about. So you would be, that's the part where I'm saying, on the closing costs. So say you have 80,000 in equity, right? And you're increasing your mortgage balance by that 6,000 in closing costs. That's why I say you really want to make sure that you're saving and you understand, like, don't refinance every other year. Refinance to the interest rate that you want and then keep that. Now, if you know, hey, I'm gonna sell this house in a year, it probably doesn't make sense to refinance because you're just spending $6,000 in closing costs and then you're gonna sell it in a year. But you don't lose the equity, no. So if the house is worth 300,000 and your current balance is 240, you're going to refinance 240 plus the 6,000 in closing costs, so 246. So you don't lose the equity in between 246 and 300. You don't.
Okay, great. All right, and I did notice we got one more question, but we did cut questions off, so I do apologize for that because we are over time. But like I said, please go back through that chat. I'll leave the room open a little bit afterwards. So that way, if someone wants to go up inside the chat to retrieve some information, you can do that. I'm also going to put our text to give information inside the chat. So we would definitely appreciate if you're able to. As well as, of course, we want to thank you. So we really appreciate you.
Sure. I enjoyed this. I hope everyone got the information.
I think so. Obviously, we had to close the questions off. So I think that speaks volumes.
It's just, it was different for me because I'm used to like hearing people and talking. So, but I could go on forever.
They were definitely woke and they were definitely asking questions. So you were definitely a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate you bringing that to our group and to our Zoom platform. And also, I want to encourage everyone. So this is our last session for today. We restart tomorrow at 10 a.m. I do not, let me pull up and see what do we have at 10 tomorrow.
I have it ready, ma'am. Perfect. We have Alfred Record at 10.
Oh yeah, I know.
All right, we're going to talk about tax strategies, what you need to know for being self-employed and a business owner. That's from 10 to 11:30. And then from 1 to 2:30, we're going to have our favorite, which is Ezra James. He's going to give us the basics on cryptocurrency and what you need to know about that.
Okay, awesome.
So please stay tuned. Please register for those classes. And we look forward to seeing you guys back in the morning at 10 sharp.
Awesome. All right, so like I said, that's it on my end. Francis, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Keisha, with the wealth of information you provided to our group. And I just want to add this. Because we've been getting a lot of requests for the cash flow, collateral, and leverage class, we're going to open up a new class in July so that you can catch up with the other 2 groups before we start our new group. It will be on Zoom. Please email me or email Jasmine. Email Jasmine and say that I'm interested in the cash flow, collateral, and leverage group beginning in July. And what's going to happen is I'm going to have to fast track you. So it'll be 2 days a week via Zoom. Even if you're not able to participate, we'll record the sessions. Thank you.
All right, I think that's everything. So like I said, people, you all are more than welcome to go ahead and leave out at this point. I am putting the text to give information inside the chat, as well as I'm putting my email address in the chat as well. So that way, if you want to reach out to join that next session, please let us know. Make sure you let us know the class that you're joining. So make sure you say cash flow and collateral or leverage, something like that, so I can identify what class, because we have about 10 sessions going on right now. So please, or you can say the class that Francis is going to teach. That'll work for me as well. And then lastly, like I said, Keisha did put her email address inside the chat. So if you had any other questions or needed to reach out to her to purchase a property or to get to that wholesale class, please go through the chat and retrieve her information as well. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself out, but I'm going to leave the chat box open for another 2 minutes here. And then I'm going to go ahead and close the session out. But thank you all for attending. We truly appreciate you all and look forward to seeing you in the morning, hopefully.